Strange Friendship by John Martin from Beware, Terror Tales number 6, March 1953. A friendship that defies the grave. On the phone, Merle, the curator of the museum, was insistent. At the other end of the wire, James Petrie sighed. "You're taking me away from a good supper, he said. "After all, Merle, you're the expert on Babylonian inscriptions, Petrie," Merle's voice interrupted. "And this tablet's got me absolutely buffaloed. Besides." A tense, vibrant note crept into his voice, and he paused. Petrie instantly became attentive. He knew that note in Merle's voice. "Go on," Petrie urged. "Besides, a number of odd, almost grotesque occurrences here at the museum have made me, well, Petrie, to an old friend, I'll say it, doubt my sanity." There was a break in Merle's voice, suddenly. "I'll be right over," Petrie said crisply and hung up. He knew Merle and his hard-headed scientific attitude. In archaeological circles, Merle was known as a born skeptic. He believed in facts, in material things. If something had happened to shake a mind like Merle's. Quickly, Petrie climbed into his overcoat, informed his butler he'd be late for dinner, and hurried down to his car. The museum was on the opposite side of the big park. Traffic, unusually heavy on such a rainy night, slowed his progress considerably. By the time Petrie was within 10 blocks of the museum, his own nerves were ragged. Risking a ticket, he passed 2 other ears and raced into the uptown avenue that passed the museum. He drove the Sportster down the empty, silent driveway leading to the basement entrance of the museum and parked. Leaping out, he noted with satisfaction that Merle had thoughtfully left a light burning at one of the side doors. As a member of the museum's board of trustees, Petrie had a key. Quickly, he let himself in. Merle's office was on the 3rd floor. Petrie took the broad marble staircase, realizing that the elevators wouldn't be operating at night. Coming off the landing at the 2nd floor, he paused in his stride. Somewhere down a corridor, a faint light shone. Then a dim, distant figure he couldn't make out crossed his field of vision and disappeared slowly into a side hall portal. Swiftly, he turned onto the stairs leading to the 3rd floor. Along the stages were ranged the exhibits in Merle's charge. He gave them scarcely a glance. An instant later, he was knocking at Merle's door. Merle welcomed him cordially, but Petrie detected an uneasiness about the curator. "This tablet you've been talking of," Petrie ventured, accepting a cigar. "Where is it?" Merle handed him a small clay tablet. "Babylonian, of course, so far as the alphabet is concerned, but written in some dialect I can't decipher," Merle said. "It was found with those 3 Babylonian mummy coffins dug up last year. 2 are already set up. They contain the body of a high priest named Ernapol and one of the ancient king, Nebuchadnezzar. The 3rd is of a soldier named Rishad of the royal house of Nebuchadnezzar. We've still got his coffin in the receiving room." He paused. "I can't be sure, but I date both coffins and tablets around 572 BC. 570 to be exact," Petrie said, busy with a pencil and sheet of paper as he examined the tablet with a small magnifying glass. "The dialect this is written in is Sumerian, one of the more obscure Babylonian languages." The point of his pencil flew over the page. "The inscription's nothing complicated. Seems to have something to do with a military plot against Nebuchadnezzar by Rashad and Ernapol." He finished, then tossed it across the desk at Merle. "File it," he said, smiling, "with the rest of the dust of ages." Then his face changed. "But this wasn't the most pressing reason you asked me to come." Merle glanced at him furtively. "I don't know how to begin, Petrie," he said nervously. "You'll think I'm crazy, but objects in the Babylonian hall have been moved about mysteriously." His voice sank and took on a ragged edge. "Nothing's been stolen, and if outsiders had broken in, the burglar alarms would have given them away." He ran a hand through his hair, trembling. "Maybe it's just my nerves. We haven't moved Rishad's mummy case upstairs yet to finish the exhibit. Only Ernapol's mummy case is there with Nebuchadnezzar's mummy." Abruptly, Merle jumped. "Petrie, did you hear that?" He cried. "Hear what?" Petrie asked. "I can hear footsteps, probably a night guard. I saw one as I was coming upstairs." Before him, Merle rose slowly, his face paling in horror. "Our night guard's been in the hospital for weeks, and we've been unable to replace him, Petrie." Abruptly, his head jerked toward the door. "Good Lord," he screamed. "What's that?" From below them, somewhere in the vast building, an eerie booming sound like the beat of the wings of great metal birds began. It rolled toward them in an increasing crescendo. "Come on," Petrie cried, heading for the door. Merle slammed open a drawer of his desk, pulled out a revolver, and tore after him. Halfway down the stairs to the second floor, they stopped. The noise rose, beat about their heads, and thundered in their ears. "Switch on the lights," Merle quavered. They moved down the steps. Petrie darted to a wall switch. The roaring ceased. There was a click. Instantly, the great hall was bathed in light. Petrie pillowed a few more switches. The brilliance of the light expanded. "Oh my God!" Merle's horrified ejaculation spun Petrie around. What's wrong?" Petrie faltered. "Everything's in order." Merle pointed a shaking finger at two mummy cases. "Look there, Petrie," he shrieked. "The mummy case of Ernopal." "So it is," began Petrie. Then he stopped and his eyes bulged. "But that's Rashad's mummy case beside the case we didn't move from the receiving room," Merle croaked. Petrie flashed it one swift glance. Then, as a look of sickening understanding came over his face, he pulled Merle upstairs with him, back to the curator's office. Inside, he went to the sheet he'd deciphered, scanned it, then handed it to Merle. "I, Nebuchadnezzar, King of Kings," Merle read aloud, his voice quavering, "condemn Ernopal and Reshad, whose friendship led them to conspire against me, to death. United in life, let them be forever separated in the land of the dead." Merle paused, then turned to Petrie. I don't understand." Petrie's smile was grim. "Ernopal and Reshad were friends, welded in common cause against their king, Nebuchadnezzar. The king was wise to bury them apart, confine their coffins in sealed rock tombs where they could never unite against him. He knew that friendship, like love, can often transcend death." Merle's face ashen. "But good Lord, Petrie, do you realize what you're saying? You're inferring that the figure you saw tonight, the visitor who disturbed the objects in the Babylonian hall, was—" Merle paused, his hands shaking. "It was Reshad, looking for his friend Ernopal," Petrie said stonily. "Surely you saw that the seals on his coffin were broken, Merle. I agree that no living man could carry a stone coffin up 2 flights of stairs, but an animated mummy—" A crash, like the sudden explosion of stone under great pressure, tore their gaze to the door. Again, they raced downstairs. It was Petrie who saw it first, the mummy of the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, that had stood to one side of the coffin of Ernopal, had been shattered to fragments. Rigid, Petrie pointed to the mummy cases around which the fragments clustered, the coffins of Ernopal and Rashad. Merle gasped. The cases were still and silent and sealed. The end. The preceding thrilling story has presented for your enjoyment. This classic work is now in the public domain, making it freely available to be shared and appreciated by all. Some elements may appear outdated or insensitive by today's standards, but we present this work in its original form to preserve its historical context and literary significance. Sit back, relax, and indulge in this timeless tale. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Every bit helps this channel grow. Thank you.